How does China's policy of promoting open economic cooperation and mutual benefit, as exemplified by its global trade initiatives, challenge the US view that restrictive measures like tariffs and tech bans are necessary for its economic revival? What does this suggest for fostering global economic stability?
I think President Trump intends to reverse the excesses of the neoliberal policy of the recent administrations, and he wants to reindustrialize America. But I think he wants to implement the policies of the American system as it was developed by Alexander Hamilton, who used tariffs, but that was a different time. He used tariffs to protect the nascent young American economy against the British free trade. Today, the conditions are completely different because the economies of the world are much more interwoven. Spare parts are being produced in all kinds of countries. So the tariffs hit sometimes even American firms several times back and forth the border. So I think that the intention of Trump is well, but I think it may lead in the short term to inflation, increased price for the American consumers. And in the medium term, it tends to make the economies of both sides shrink.
How do you respond to US politicians who spearhead aggressive anti-China legislation despite never having visited China or engaged substantively with Chinese counterparts? And what impact does such rhetoric have on bilateral relations?
My advice to these American politicians who have never been in China is just go there, go and see by yourself. Because, if people go to areas like the Great Bay Area, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Shanghai, which is the motor of the world economy, it is so modern, so developed. There's nothing like that either in the United States or in Europe. The Australian Strategic Institute for Policy, in their critical technology checker, has just reported that of 64 advanced technologies, China is leading in 57. And, I think that the United States really has to go back to their own best traditions of the American system of economy, and otherwise, overcome this idea of, that you have to be the number one and dominant over all others, because there is no way how anybody, the United States or anybody else, can contain the rise of China. It's a country which has 1.4 billion people, and they have taken the lead based on an economy based on innovation. You can't contain it. So just live with it and cooperate. I think that's the only way how we get out of this.
How do you see in upcoming time, the China-US relationship? Do you think that America would be still bent upon the same kind of rhetoric or same kind of the trade and tariff war which we saw under President Donald Trump? Would they stay in this bubble, or there are chances of reconciliation or thinking positively or having some sane voices around him?
Well, obviously, this idea of the special nation, the indispensable nation, as Madame Albright once called it, is deeply ingrained in the American elite establishments. However, the world has changed, and President Trump came into the White House the second time in a world which was completely different than his first term, because the countries of the global south have risen due to the rise of China and extending the economic cooperation through the Belt and Road Initiative. And therefore, I think the BRICS and the many countries aspiring to become part of the BRICS are a new factor in the situation, which I'm confident will impact the more rational thinking people in the United States, that the world has changed and the United States will have to adapt.